Carthage must be destroyed. I have here in front of me a mud brick house that I did in about 2 days. Well, I didn't do it in about 2 days. I actually put it together a long time ago, as you saw in some of my other videos, but I painted it in about 2 days. So I'm going to talk about actually both of these houses here, as well as the basing that I've done and redone on these Afghans here. As those of you who have been following my channel know, I've been doing this Afghanistan, I want to call it the Anglo-Afghan War stuff that I've been doing. Second Anglo-Afghan War. I've been doing some Pashtun tribesmen, as you can see there. And of course with that, I want to do some terrain as well. In the last video, I was talking about some basing and whiting, but in this vlog, I want to focus on these houses as well as AK product that I tried out. I mentioned it last time, I think. I don't remember if I actually mentioned it or not, but I ended up getting 2 AK products. I got the Desert Sand and the Sandy Desert. Now, I'm not going to open these up and show them the color differences, but actually, you know, their examples on the sides here are pretty much exactly, I'll zoom in there, pretty much exactly what you expect when you're getting them, when you get them. The Desert Sand, the AK Terrain's Desert Sand here is a lighter, brighter color, and if I can upload a quick picture into this video, I will, to show you what it looks like. But it's very, very bright, and I found it's good for emulating like dunes off in the distance. You sometimes see those very sandy, bright dunes in videos and pictures. But I found it was too bright for my models. It really glowed too brightly. So what I ended up doing is I put down this stuff, let it dry, and it dries really fast. I found like within an hour, I was already able to put something else on top. I let it dry about, I think, up to 4 to 5 hours, just to be sure, but it dries much faster than the Vallejo and the Citadel stuff at least that's what I think. I put that down first, and then over top, I put a layer almost completely covering it of the Sandy Desert. Now, the Sandy Desert is more red, and it's got a lot more debris and sand in it, and the end result are these guys here. Now, I believe it was this guy, I'll show you here. This guy in the center, you can see some of that yellow sticking out. That yellow is from the desert sand. Whereas these other two guys, I originally in my last video had just done a kind of like I think it was a Karak stone from Citadel, kind of a mix, and I ended up just putting the redder sandy desert over top because I really wasn't happy with the desert look that I made originally. It wasn't desert enough. You can kind of see on this guy here some of the old stuff popping through, but enough of the sandy desert has covered it to make it look good. Now, I could have done a bit better around his feet there, but I actually quite I quite like the look of some of that yellow popping up through the desert sand, or the sandy desert rather. I like the desert sand popping up a little bit around this sandy desert. So what I think I'm going to do for my next Afghans, and I'm not done these bases yet, I still want to put some more rocks and stuff in there. You can see, I think it's on this guy here, I put some sand in there. I added extra bits of sand and I dry brushed it with Vallejo pale sand. But basically what I want to do is I want to add a few more rocks to this, make it a little more rocky, maybe add some grass tufts, some dried grass tufts. And that's basically all I want to do with the basing. And I just thought it was so simple with AK's products here. They dried quickly. I mean, the shapes and the looks that I got was more so what I was looking for. I prefer it over Citadel stuff. It's way cheaper than Citadel stuff price-wise, and it's a 240 milliliter bin. The Citadel stuff, I don't have any with me here, but it's only a tenth, or rather 24 milliliters, I think, and it's like half the price of what I paid for these. So I think from now on, I'm going to just stick with Mudbrick House. I've got tons of different terrain stuff out there, and they're really good. You should see the tutorials and stuff on YouTube. Amazing product. I really enjoy it, and so that's me having it with my miniatures and their basing there. But it didn't take me long. I basically started out by building the model, and when you build models, there's often like, you know, mold lines or cracks or seams. With this model here, their adobe face in here, you can see it's all got textured up and stuff like that, is really nice all the way around, except when you get to the sides inside the building, it's all flat. It's just a flat looking thing, and it looks like basically this, okay? It's the inside. That's what the inside of this roof looked like. And that doesn't really make sense to me, because when you look at adobe buildings, the entire structure of the building should be covered in that kind of stucco adobe look, right? I'm not sure what it's called in mud brick houses. I should say this mud brick house isn't done yet. I still want to do some dry brushing on the roof, but it's good enough for the roof, the beams that hold up the roof and the door, but it'll end up looking more like this, maybe a bit more poppy when I'm done with it. But yeah, it's basically almost done. It's good enough to present, I think. But what I ended up doing to solve that is I ended up, and I didn't do the greatest job because it's my first time using it, but I used Milliput, and Milliput is a putty, and you can design stuff, you can fill in gaps and stuff. I filled in some gaps. It's a great alternative then to green stuff, but I used the putty, and you can kind of see in some spots where I didn't quite get to the bottom. I should have done a bit more work. I think it's still okay. You can see down there, that's fine. But I mean, at this end here, I love how I was able to kind of blend it in and make a stucco look, an adobe look, just with that. And from a distance, it looks fine. It blends in. Even looking at this here, I think it's fine. It's like an unfinished finish or an area popping off. So I think it'll do for wargaming. It's fine. And I also used that stuff on the corners here. Originally, you could tell, you can kind of see where I could have flattened it a bit more. The stucco here ends, and it had just like a sharp point. They don't really have that on mud brick houses. They're rounded. They follow the adobe. I think it's a better blend in here. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not that. Maybe not as good as I'm saying. I also put some of the Milliput along the stairs there to block it off, as well as cover some of the stuff up here. So yeah, the Milliput and all of that putting it together really made it blend in as one piece. I think it looks a lot better than it would have if I just let it, paint it with all those seams and those edges showing. So I think it just looks better after doing that. As for the actual paint job itself, it's a really easy paint job. I used Vallejo Desert, it's Desert Yellow, I think. Vallejo Desert Yellow spray and just an aerosol spray. I just sprayed it all yellow. I do this with my tanks too. I just sprayed it all yellow, and then I don't do any washing on the adobe or the kind of stucco surfaces. I'm not exactly sure what it's called. I think it's called adobe or stucco. No, I don't know if you can really tell here in the shadow, but I didn't remember if I did that or not before. I'll just say this now. This is using the same technique on this model as I used for the Mudbrick House. This one has less stucco and more bricks. This is from Battlescale Miniatures, battlescale.com I think it's called, and they got some great smaller scale stuff. They only sell 128 millimeters, and it's this ruin here. But these ruins here have a lot more bricks to it. I made it more desert than what they presented as European. But this one here, the bricks are smaller, so the bricks are a lot darker and look more muddy. But I used the same technique on these bigger bricks on this house. The reason it doesn't look as dark though is because you have more crevices and more recesses in this brick wall compared to that. So it's actually the same color scheme. The color scheme here, what I do is after I spray it all Vallejo yellow, I will use sepia, what's it called? I think it's the Seraphim Sepia from Citadel, and I only wash the bricks. That's it. I only wash that. All the rest I leave yellow. And then I just go mad when that's dry. I just go crazy with dry brushing. I use a ton of colors. I start with Carrick Stone, Talaran Sand, Ushtabi Sandri, Sandri Dust, Zamissi Desert, I think it's called. And then finally I finish with Screaming Skull. And the reason I have so many colors dry brushed into that is simply because I couldn't decide what looked good until I got to the end of the Screaming Skull. And in the end I thought, hey, it looked muddy and good enough. So there's a lot of colors that I put into the mud brick there. As for the actual faces itself, it's super easy to do this stuff. I basically just right on top, without washing, right on top of that desert yellow, I basically took Citadel's Ustabi bone brush, I don't know how to pronounce it, the Ustabi bone, their old pale bone color, and then I just dry brushed like crazy all over the surface here. On this model here, you can see that there was a lot more, I guess, depth to the stucco, whereas like this stuff here was more flat. You can still see some of the detail in there, and it looks more whole and flat, whereas this here has a lot more texture compared to this one here. So what I do is I completely do that all over with Ushtabi until it's fairly dusty looking, and then I take Vallejo pale sand and do another coat over that to kind of make it pop a bit more, so you get kind of those white edges along the sides, and then if you look at it from a distance, it's a little brighter. It's not just going to be sand or dirt, it's more just gives it a bit of a pop, I think. And then in some areas, I try and get it as even as possible, but it actually looks more convincing in my opinion if you don't do as much, like in some of the corners, you leave a little bit not so dry brush. You try and cover it with mostly Ishaptibon, however you pronounce it, and then you get most of it with pale sand, but leaving a few spots out like the top makes it a little more believable. I kind of like it on the steps. They're not as completely, I think, as dry brushed as here, but it makes sense because people be walking up and down steps, right? So be a little more dirty. That's just how I look at it. Anyway. But yeah, I really like this Renedra building. It's kind of weird to put together, but once you get the milliput on it and paint it up, it sits in really nicely. And I mean, scale-wise, I think that works fairly well, don't you? With the Afghans here. So yeah, I'll probably, if I didn't get them in through the video editing, I will probably add them at the end here. Just the photos of the process of me throwing milliput on here, and then this priming part, and then the different levels of it with maybe text descriptions or something like that. But yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to share you guys what I was doing. More basing, did some terrain, and I have been working on the touch-ups on these next guys. I'm about to finish this guy. You can see here that is it's down his eyes, but I went a little too crazy. I gotta paint over his eyes so they're not so bulging. I got a new color to Vallejo's Cavalry Brown. I'm trying to go a little unique with the turban look there. But, oh man, I love this shade of brown. It's like a reddish brown, and I'm gonna use the same color to lay over top, I think. I just wanted to have an alternative to just blues and whites in my guys there. Make a couple guys some rich Afghanistan tribesmen, not just guys in all white, right? I got some of that going on this guy too. So, but yeah, I've got a few more guys on the go, a few more crazy turbans I'm trying to do. I do like white though. I think the white look is the best. But anyway, I've rambled on long enough here. I just wanted to show you guys the next vlog work that I've been doing and the progress on it. So that's it, Mudbrick houses and AK's awesome sand terrain basing. So thank you all for watching. If you want to see more, just like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, just let me know and I'll get back to you. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.